Welcome to the Martial Arts with Jake podcast. Hear from the best martial artists and combat sports athletes from around the world. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Yes, guys, welcome to the Martial Arts with Jake podcast. Today, I'm absolutely honoured to be joined by one of Britain's finest ever judokas, world champion, two-time Olympic silver medalist, and multiple-time European champion, as well as an MBE, Mr. Neil Adams. Thank you for coming on.
It's a pleasure. Absolutely. My pleasure.
I really appreciate it. So I want to try and inspire people to take up martial arts through these podcasts. So you've achieved a heck of a lot throughout your career. So I want to take you back to the beginning, if that's okay. So where did it all start for you?
It started in a little blue hut in Rugby, which is where I am now. I've done full circle. So come back to my
Just down
roots.
the road from me.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Right.
Yes, it's Solihull.
There, yeah. And Solihull actually was my second. I mean, Coventry Judo Club was my first major judo club.
Yeah.
Which I did when I was a kid, because I started judo when I was 7 years of age, and so I came all the way through the junior ranks. And Coventry Judo Club was my main club, but then Solihull had a kind of a pilot club that worked in conjunction with Coventry, and so I used to train at Solihull as well, and so I had two main clubs, but Coventry was my major first one, and I was there during my junior days, which was under 16s, and I was doing British Championships then as a kid, you know, coming through. And moved to London when I was 16, which was quite young.
Okay. Was that to pursue judo, the move to London, was it?
Yes, London was the place, the Judoka, which is the oldest judo club in Europe. And it was, so what happened was basically in the 50s, 40s, 50s, the Japanese sent out all their disciples, and they sent them out to different locations to spread the word, you know. I mean, like you said, I mean, you're all about spreading the martial arts word, and you know, and that's what they did. They spread judo all over Europe, and then it went all over the world. So they had these different disciples going over there, starting. So most countries have somebody that started judo in their country. You know, we had Jigoro Kano obviously was the main one, and so then of course the Budokai was founded, and it was founded in, I think, in the 40s, the 1940s, and it was one of the top judo clubs in the world. And of course some of the top people were training there, so that's why I went down to London.
Yeah. And what about judo was it that first grasped you? About all the martial arts, what about judo was the one that thought, this is the one for me?
Yeah, it was always going to be. My dad was a cyclist originally, and then he took up judo, and he became a Dan grade at judo, and he was always going to put my brother and myself into judo just to see if I liked it. You know, I was soccer mad at one stage, and then of course it was just one of those things that I was better at very quickly, and I just had a feel for it. And my brother as well, so he was an excellent judo man. My brother was excellent, and
very competitive, growing up against each other.
It was, but he was 3.5 years older.
Okay.
So, you know, so when he was 17, 18, I was still, you know, relatively quite a lot younger then. 3.5 years was quite a lot at that time. Yeah. But he was always very encouraging. He was typical brother, and very protective towards me as well. And we grew up, and it was all about us doing judo. And he represented Great Britain as well at Paris tournament, and some of the big A tournaments then. And so it was excellent. But then I think he realized that it wasn't going to go right the way. You know, he wasn't going to be world champion. And so he kind of veered off and did something different.
At what point did you see it going the right way for yourself as a competitor in judo?
I think fairly young, because at 17, I did I was European champion in my age and weight group and things like that. But they put me straight into the senior European championships at 17.
At 17?
Yes, at 17. And I had a really close match with the current Olympic champion. So I came up against a guy called Vladimir Nevzorov, who was the world Olympic champion. And I took him so close at 17, and everybody went, including him. I think he was just coming up to the end of his career, and that European title was his last title.
Okay.
And I came third in that European Championships, and then I kind of know, and people knew then that it was on the cards, and that with the right kind of, it's like anything, with the right kind of direction and the right training, and it doesn't happen by magic. It's hard work, and I put a lot of hard work in, but I had a lot of people behind me from that point on. And then I was European champion the following year, and then it progressed.
So throughout your competitive career, how old were you when you first started competing?
Well, I competed as a kid, and they don't have nationals. 10 years of age was my first national title. And then I won that up to 15, 16 years of age. And then cadets, which was under 18s, and then under 20s. And then, like I say, at 17, I was like stepping out there against the seniors. So it kind of happened quickly for me. But for most, physically, I wasn't physically as developed as I could have been. From a physical point of view, I was very much a boy. So I wasn't shaving properly till I was 20. And, it was one of those, but I had a good skill level. So I got away with a lot. And then as I started to come into my body and my, my man body, and then things really started to happen. And then I was world champion at 21, so it was all happening. It happened quite early for me.
Yeah.
For females, it happens earlier. They have a kind of a 3 year, they develop quicker, and they develop mentally and physically quicker than boys and men.
What is the female judo scene like? Because we all know in the UFC we had Ronda Rousey come on, and then that kind of, did that elevate judo for a little while as well within the UK?
I think it elevated it all over the world, and the thing is that I think it's not so much UFC, but certainly when it comes to jiu-jitsu and the fact that judo was winning at UFC, was a great plus for us, and great plus for Ronda. And I think it elevated her to, stardom and stuff like that, and the thing is, she's a great judo fighter, and any kind of stuff like that is great for your sport, and we have to just take that, and accept that the accolade that it gives us, and I think that as long as I'm all for judo. I push judo, and I am a judoka, and I love it that different, it can help and aid other martial arts, especially UFC stuff, and the MMA stuff. But when I teach MMA groups, I teach judo. I just teach pure judo. And to tell you the truth, I haven't really got the time. A lot of people ask me, they say, would you have tried other stuff? And I probably would have, to a degree. It would, really interests me.
Yeah.
And really, I would like to be a better puncher, and I would like to be more skilled from a self-defense point of view and a karate point of view. But I just never had the time, for me to concentrate on my own skill. Was very much, I really studied my own skill, and I still do. I'm not finished yet, I'm not in my 60s, but I'm not finished, and so I'm still, when it comes to coaching and teaching and passing on, and I'm still studying, so if I see something new, I go, oh, stolen, that I like that, and what I'll do, and what I've always been able to do, is to look at something and develop it and put my own kind of edge on it.
This kind of leads on to my next question, actually. How do you feel judo has evolved over time from when you started to how you are now?
I think it's evolved in as that, if you change a rule in any fighting sport, you change a rule and you can change the game. You put a different time limit on it. You change the speed, if you shorten the time that you're out there and you say, right, you've got 3 minutes, off you go, then the whole speed of the match is different than if you said, right, you've got an 8-minute match here. All right, because if you've got 8 minutes, you've got to spread it over 8 minutes, kind of time it a little bit differently. And if you have a look, for example, with groundwork in judo, it's very catch wary, in as that, you have to catch your move very, very quickly, and you have, as long as it's progressive, they'll allow you to carry on, but it's bang, 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 and then you've got to have it secured. But in jiu-jitsu, for example, whereas it's all about the getting your partner to submit, it's all about submission. So you've got time to build, and so it's a different groundwork than if you put a speed element in. So obviously we have transition from standing, we have a big throwing part, and then we have the transition into ground, and then you've got to have really good transition in. If you haven't got transition in, then you miss it. You miss the groundwork part. And we've got 3 ways we can win on the ground. So you've got to be able to transition in.
Because I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu myself. I've been doing it for the past 4 years. I'm from a striking background. And I found that whenever I've come up against judo guys, when they throw, which I have been thrown a fair share of times, it is like getting hit by a truck.
Yeah, but you've got to remember that a throw is different than a takedown. So a takedown is, in rugby, you take them down. When people talk about taking down from a jiu-jitsu perspective, if they go into the guard immediately to pull down, that's totally different than somebody throwing with control into a situation where they transition into what I want. So my advantage is that if I throw and part of the game is throwing, then I control the transition, not you. Right? And that's the whole, and that's what makes it different. And my suggestion to you is just that you can feel the difference. In fact, and this is an invitation to you, but when the COVID and the lockdown finishes, we will be doing some very specific seminars at my dojo. And so the invitation is there for you.
Fantastic, thank you.
To come and have a look at the difference and to feel the difference, because it's a different, it's different throwing in than taking down to get it transition.
Because I'm a tall guy myself. I'm 6'4", and I've always found the level change is the hardest part for me with it as well, with regards to taking down. So I've always been one of them that likes to pull guard.
So, I mean, that's why when I do stuff with jiu-jitsu groups, or so if I go into a jiu-jitsu group, obviously I'm known for my kensetsu, my arm locks and my transition in, but from a judo perspective, not from a jiu-jitsu perspective. So I do the throwing part in the jiu-jitsu classes, because that then shows the difference. And so it is a different movement in to ground if you're throwing into it, So knowing the difference between a throw and a takedown is will kind of change your concept of it. I think.
So you started competing from a very young age, and the world champion at age 21. What kind of sacrifices did you have to make to become an Olympian? And where did that whole process start as well, from competing for Team GB to then the Olympic level?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, at 20, that was my first Olympic silver medal, and which was a split decision in the final. So the guy that I lost to in the final of that Olympic Games was, I'd beaten him in the European final a month earlier. So yeah, it was just one of those. But anyway, lost on the decision for that. So my build up from 16 to 20 for that first Olympic Games was everything sacrificed, going down to London. My parents kind of backed, you know, my move. I was I was young when I went down there. And like I say, there was nothing else there. It was just about concentrating on that. All my work was to make enough money so that I could train full time, you know. So full-time training for me was training 5-6 hours a day.
Yeah.
And directed to that one thing. And like I say, I didn't have enough time to kind of veer off and do other things.
So how did it feel then when you finally achieved becoming a world champion? After all of that 5-6 hours a day training, the move to London,
Yeah.
What was the sense of fulfillment like for you then?
Well, it was incredible. And I think that, and then I wanted to do it again and again. And, you know, it was and harder to keep it. You know, it's one thing getting there, but it's another thing when people are firing at you, you know. And I got chased all over Europe by this Polish guy called Vladimir Ligin. And he chased me all over for a year, and later became two-time Olympic champion. And I remember when he was chasing me, and I thought, well, this guy's everywhere. That every tournament that I'm at, he's at. And it wasn't by accident. And then I thought, well, I did that. You know, I did that exact same thing with Nevzorov. You know, I chased him everywhere. And it's a lot harder maintaining, you know, when you're there. And it's one thing getting there, but it's another thing trying to maintain it. But yeah, it was, you know what, I had 10 years in the top 3 ranked in the world, 11-year period, you know, and so I that for me was the most difficult thing, is to be consistent all the way through.
Whilst you were competing, was you coaching at the same time as well, or did the coaching come post retirement from competition?
It came well, it came towards the end, because I retired once. I kind of lost my second Olympic gold medal in Los Angeles, and I kind of came off it. Then came back, did the European Championships, won the Europeans, then got a coaching possibility in Paris.
Right.
So I went to Paris for a year to have a look at their system and to really do my apprenticeship, coaching apprenticeship. And then I was still on there, and somebody said, you know what, this isn't finished. You know, you really need to still go for the Olympics. And I went for the 88 Olympics, made a comeback and came back for that. And yeah, but so I was coaching then.
Yeah.
A little bit different when you say, I was doing a lot of teaching, and different teaching and coaching. And I was teaching judo at seminars and things like that, showing my techniques and different things. But then when first time I kind of got a group together where I was actually developing their judo and taking them from one level to another level, that's totally different. And then, you know, of course, when I finished 88, I took over a club and had my first real big group of full-time athletes. And then that's when it really started. I learned a lot from that first group. We had 28 British champions from that group.
28 British champions.
28 British champions, and I didn't cherry pick them. I took the ones that were, which was a funny one, because I think in a situation like that, it would have been easy to cherry pick the ones that were definitely going to be, you know, that could do it. But what I did was I went for the ones that were going to give me 100%.
Yeah. And
sometimes the ones that the most naturally talented athletes, I used to, you know, like I'd send them away for a month to think about what you know, their contribution to this group. And yeah, I had a group of athletes, male and female, that just wanted to work their butts off, you know, and that's what I wanted. Yeah. So we had a lot of success with that group. I learned more from that group than any of my coaching since, or, you know, or before.
I was about to say, did you learn a lot more as a judoka through your teaching as well?
Yes, I did. It made me look at, from a technical point of view. I mean, I'm more of a technical coach now.
More finer details, was it?
Finer details. And if you have a look on the website, our NA Effective Fighting, a lot of it's not just about techniques and the studies of the techniques, but we go one step back, and then I teach the principles of movement and balance and direction and how to adapt, because adaptability in our sport is absolutely imperative, you know, and that was something that came later for me, is how to get them to adapt to certain movements. So I could show you a technique, for example, and you would go, oh, I like that. That looks nice. You know what I mean? But then, because, for example, you're 6'4", all right, how would we make that work for you?
Yeah.
You know, so getting you to adapt to different heights and different, you know, different situations. And so that's something that came later.
What would you say your style of judo was then? Because as you say, there's different body types and everyone learns the same techniques, but it's how we implement them as a competitor yourselves. What would you say your style was?
Well, it was very Japanese. It was very Japanese based, because I love, for me, that. I mean, now we see so many different styles, because the Mongolians and the Georgians and the Japanese and the Koreans and the Russians, and they all have different ways of executing a technique.
Yeah.
The Mongolians have got their wrestling style, that a lot of them go into wrestling to begin with, and their wrestling is done with a jacket on, but they've got no sleeves on the jacket. So a lot of their gripping comes from different parts of the jacket, not on the sleeves, because they haven't got sleeves, right? But a lot of their techniques come from massive hip movements and stuff like that. And when you look at a lot of the European styles of judo, it derives from a lot of the wrestling styles within that country. But now what happens is that a lot of the Japanese influences, of course, have influenced them now to do traditional Japanese style judo as well. And so there's kind of a mix. Mine was always very Japanese based, because I was always in Japan. I was always studying stand-up, traditional grips, throw from a stand-up position, not from a bent over position. And so that was always good for me. And of course, when I was competing, a lot of the wrestling influences came in. And so a lot of judo was bent over like this up to 1990s. And so the IOC saw that, and they said, you know, this looks a bit like wrestling with jackets on.
Yeah.
So we had to change our rules and stop the leg grabbing and the wrestling moves and make it more stand up. So if you came into judo now, you wouldn't have to worry about somebody diving for your legs.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it. So you would have to be able to demonstrate and initiate technique against from a stand-up position. So good for me, because it's all turned around, and my Japanese style of judo has come to the fore.
Yeah. And what was it like spending time in Japan training?
Phenomenal. I loved it. You know, I mean, I didn't at the time, all right, because it was hard. You know, I went out there and I did 25-minute randoris a day for a month. And then I'd come home, do my running, my weight training, my different things. I'd go back out to Japan, another month of just sparring, you know, just randori, what we call randori, which is the equivalent of sparring.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that substitutes that. Body on body, you know, that contact, do as much running as you like, as much forearm work and as much weight training and circuits. Nothing emulates getting hold of a body and a good level. I needed good level, you see.
Yeah.
So I needed to be in danger of being thrown, and I couldn't get that at home. I controlled the situation, and I had it all on. When I went there, I was under threat.
So it helps elevate your game as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And it elevated my game, and it enabled me then, and it put an edge on. And when you've got that edge, and you know that when you're training with anything, you must have felt it sometimes, is that when you feel in danger, it kind of puts an edge there. Your eyes change, your whole persona changes, you know, and we need that sometimes.
And what would you say the level of GB judo is now? Do you feel like it's caught up towards the Japanese way of training, or is it a different style of training over here to in Japan?
I think they're struggling at the moment to have the level that we had in the 80s, 90s, 2000, you know, and it's just a different group coming through. And it's like any team, you know, sometimes you have Manchester United of old, you know, and then the Manchester United now, you know, and so I think that what will happen is the juniors will come through, and then they'll develop, and then we'll have a new team come through. The ladies team is definitely stronger than the men's at the moment.
Okay.
And so they are probably half a dozen of them set to go to the Olympic Games. We have Olympic qualification, so they have to qualify through a lot of events in order to be able to compete at the Olympic Games. And if they haven't got a world ranking in the top 18, then they can't compete in the Olympic Games. So hopefully we'll have a couple of them competing for Olympic medals.
Is there a big tournament circuit then in the UK?
Not in the UK. There's a massive one. There is a big one in the UK, but there's a huge one abroad. We have 22 events internationally that fighters can go and accumulate. They accumulate world ranking points. And like I say, the whole aim is, and they travel all over. I mean, I'm just about to go now. We've just started traveling again, and we have to go into a bubble. All the fighters have to go into this bubble. All the officials have to go into a bubble. We have to test before we go out 2 times. We have to test when we're there. We go into the stadium, come back to the hotel, into the stadium, back to the hotel, test before we come back into this country. And then, and only if we're, you know, obviously negative, are we allowed back in. And then, yeah, that's the only way we can compete. But at least they're able to do these events.
Absolutely.
And still get the qualification, you know, so the athletes are really happy for it.
And have you found running your academy and being a judo practitioner and teacher throughout the whole COVID situation?
It's been difficult, hasn't it? And I think I think that it's been difficult for everybody. I think everybody now knows how to Zoom, and Zoom, you know, the funny thing is that we built a dojo, studio dojo, but you know, I'm really proud of it. It's lovely inside. I made it. It's one of our old barns, knocked it down, rebuilt it, and I've got everything in there that I need, you know, that, and it went in, finished probably 3 weeks prior to the first lockdown.
Oh.
And the whole idea of it was that we set it up so that we would start club to club, dojo to dojo, and classes. And that was the whole idea, you know. We thought, oh, good idea, this, you know, rather than me traveling all the time, we'll do specific seminars, dojo to dojo, and then bang. And so that's, of course, what we've been doing here. So, you know, I'm looking forward to having first live dojo classes, you know, so that would be nice. But we've managed. And I think that what we've done, we had an online element of our business. So we have the Gokyo, which is all the 40 throws broken down into short films, and people can access that. They can access Essential Judo, which is all the fundamental principles of movement, balance, direction. People can come online and get those specific studies of my arm lock and my different throws, you know, they can access them.
Superb.
And of course, now we've been doing Zoom classes. I did one 2 weeks ago. I had 160 from the United States on one Zoom class.
It's amazing how you can go global now.
Amazing.
Teach anyone from anywhere in the world.
I think that we've all had to kind of think of different directions.
Yeah.
Thank God, you know, that we've had this. Thank God.
Where can people find your online training?
naeffectivefighting.com will get them to our website, and we've just launched Adam's Family UK, which is it's Adam's Family Fitness, right? But it's adamsfamilyuk.com. Will take them to our fitness part, which is my wife does the fitness ball, you know, the big ball,
The big Swiss balls.
Big Swiss balls. She does training routines on those for people that actually for over 40s and people that are just trying to get moving and something they can do in the house.
Which is ideal during this time as well.
Perfect for this time. And I've got my part is the bands, which are the elastic bands. We use them a lot actually for our judo movement and for our rotation.
Rotation.
Yes. And you can access that as well. And I'll send you some links.
Thank you very much.
So that you can put them.
I will leave links to all of your sites in the description below as well for everyone, so they can access your fantastic online training syllabuses.
Wonderful. Training. Okay. And then, of course, the battle belts. We have battle belts, which are like the battle ropes, but they're a portable version of it.
Okay.
Same weight, but they roll up and you can use them in, you know, you can take them in your car, you can use them anywhere, outside, inside. If you've got a little bit of space, you can use them. And yeah, so I do the battle belts and the elastics bands. And yeah, it's Adam's Family UK.
Superb. And for practicing your throws with the belts, is there kind of like outside of your actual traditional training yourself, in the gym work, what kind of training did you have to do to build up your strength? Was it kind of generic weightlifting, or was it kind of specific to judo that you'd have to do?
Well, there's nothing like sport specific, is there? You know, so I think we always need to think about what we need.
Yeah.
What are the requirements? You know, in judo, I mean, they're 4-minute contests that can go, if you have no score on the board, can go another 4 minutes easily. And you've got to do it 6 times in a day if you're going to win the main tournament, you know. So 4 minutes blast, and then possible another 4 minutes on top of that, times 6 is basically, you know, what we got to, so we got to train interval training to a certain degree. We've got to do muscular endurance. We have to do endurance, and we need power as well, you know, because obviously at the different weight categories, you've got lightweights that are going, you know, the 60 kilos, and then we've got the plus 100 kilos at the other end, 7 weight categories. We've got a middleweight category, you know, so we've got 7 different weight categories, men, 7 ladies, and different kind of speed requirements within those, you know, so you need all over fitness.
Yeah.
And the more we can make it sport related, the better.
Superb. So I've got a few more questions left for you, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no problem. Go on, you go on.
So if you had to start again, what advice would you give to a 16-year-old Neil Adams?
Good coach, good club.
Yeah.
First thing. All right. So we've noticed, haven't we? It's one of my bugbears is that of course, one of the bad things about this lockdowns is that a lot of people have been coming on and just keeping moving, and you know, they're doing the elastics but not doing them, you know, not doing them correctly.
Yeah.
So you need good instruction. All right. And that's why I'll send you the link through so that you can see how to build it up, how to do it properly, how to relate it. Right. Okay. So it's not just about pulling it. It's about building up the hands and the feet together, head rotation, and then being able to rotate the body. Because one of the hardest things to do in a judo throw, in judo, is turning your back on your opponent. It's one of the hardest things. Everybody, if I told you just to throw somebody over, always just hooks the legs. All right, so you're facing your partner.
Yeah.
But actually, some of the big throwers do complete 180-degree turn, and it's about using your body and your movement and your momentum and your speed and your coordination in order to throw somebody over. So more difficult. And so to learn that, we need to do it in a process, and it has to be done one stage at a time.
Yes.
Which is what essential judo is. It takes it back 1-2 steps so that you can learn the principles of throwing. So much better to learn the principles of throwing more than learning, you know, well, I'm going to learn 3 throws this week. You know, that's going to help me. Actually, if I teach you the principles of movement and balance, much better.
I feel like people are too eager to learn technique after technique after technique, where it is the principles that you really start to excel, that really elevates your game.
Absolutely. And it's one of the great advantages, you know, it's one thing that the jiu-jitsu people do really well. They'll learn something and they'll drill it over and over and over again. You know, it's not about learning 10 different techniques badly. It's about learning how to do something before you move on to the next thing.
So do you think that judo should be in schools as part of a school curriculum, like the Americans have got the wrestling within the school curriculum? Do you feel like, I feel like judo would be a perfect martial art for children to learn in schools?
It is in a lot of schools all over the world, and a lot of my friends have a lot of clubs and school, but then they took it out of the curriculum for a while, which is madness really, because I think it's one of the best as far as discipline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the nice thing about martial arts, and you're pushing the martial arts, you know, the respect that we all have for each other.
Yeah.
And you know what, that carries over from judo to karate to, you know, to aikido, to, you know, all the martial arts. We all get together, you know, when we meet each other, there's nothing but respect.
Absolutely.
When you walk into a dojo, you take your shoes off. You wouldn't dream of stepping on that mat with your shoes on. You respect, you know what I mean? Not dream of it.
I wouldn't
take
at all.
your shoes off, you bow, you go in, and there's a kind of a quiet, you know, a period of it has a reverence. And a dojo, you know, if you carry that into a school curriculum, it's really calming for the kids, you know, and it teaches them a respect. I used to teach at one of the roughest schools in London, and rough kids, rough. But I never had, you know, we treated it right in the dojo, and everybody was very respectful. I had a lot of success with those kids, you know, and so I think it's one of the best things for it.
I feel like it really gives them that drive as well, something to focus on, and it keep them, those that are troubled as well, it keep them on that kind of path, so for what they can achieve through martial arts training, and the kind of how it can impact their actual physical schoolwork at the same time through the discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I had, you know, discipline, I had respect and discipline from even the ones that didn't respect their parents, which is incredible, right? But, you know, so when we talk about good parenting, you know, we all, you know, I've always tried to be a good parent and set a good example. And, you know, and as your dad has with you, you know, and absolutely, what a great job is made. And like I say, you can, you know, it's something you carry with you forever. And it's something that you can pass on. And
it doesn't matter what age you start your martial arts journey at either. It doesn't matter, like you said, with your Adam's Family Fitness, again, that's aimed at people that are 40 and over as well.
Yeah, and mine's really, I mean, it's just a show. I mean, for me, one of the reasons that I like to keep my judo as technically good as I possibly can is because I want to be able to demonstrate, even though I'm over 60, to be able to demonstrate to you what I need.
Yeah.
right, so that you can see it, and then you go, wow, well, if he can still do it at his age, and fitness wise, I'm still there. I had a conversation with my dad. I'll tell you this now. Conversation with my dad yesterday. Now my dad is 88, and it was his birthday, and so my dad said to me, and he's he's cyclist, so he was on his bike in the garage, so it's exercise bike in the garage, right? So, and he was fed up, right, because he didn't get to his 1,000-calorie limit, or
at age 88.
88.
What inspiration.
This is my conversation with him, and I thought, wow, this is not many 60-year-olds have a conversation with their dad at 88.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, so he still had his aims and his level that he was still aiming for, and
fantastic.
that's amazing.
Does that keep massive inspiration for yourself as well? Did your dad play a big part in your competition career? Was he always there with you as well?
Always there. My mum and dad always there, and my dad followed me all the way through. Didn't fight. The thing was, when he thought he'd done enough for me and that I needed more, then he sent me somewhere else. Always. Yeah. It was never about possession with my dad, and you find that a lot with coaching. It's possession, not progression.
Yeah.
And it's very important that as a good coach, right, it's about progression. So you teach something. If you can't teach it, you can't know everything. Nobody knows everything. So if there's something that you want them to get, you're not scared to kind of direct them to somebody else that can get that out of them, and that's what good coaching is.
Fantastic. And my final question, what does the future hold for yourself?
Not finished yet, so, that was another conversation I had with my dad. He said that it really gets on his nerves, when they say, well, you've had a good life. So I'm not finished yet. Yeah. That's what he said. And I'm the same. There's things I still want to achieve. I want to still be able to do good technique. If I see something new, it's always progressing that side of it. I've said to my wife, I said, we're not, money-wise, we're going to make $1 million, $2 million. So that's one of my ambitions. Still working on it.
Yeah.
I'm trying. And I think just with my commentary and things like that, because I commentate worldwide, and I've 6 Olympic Games now for the commentary and all of the judo films and stuff like that. So it's to progress and be better at that as well.
How did you find that going into the commentary?
I loved it. I've done it for a long time now. I've done it for 36 years. I started with fighting films, and I've done it for 36 years. And started off absolutely, really not very good, and progressed and became then my enthusiasm comes into the matches. So and I try and give a knowledgeable, progressive commentary of something that's happening and something that might happen, because that's the difference. That's the difference that you can get a good commentator come in, commentate a sport, and whether they know the sport or not. Yeah. Actually, what I try and do is I try and say, I can see something building, or somebody's just about to attack and something's going to happen here, and the theory behind what they're working towards, so that's what I try and give anyway. So and I try and be better in front of the camera as well. It's not just behind, but in front of. But we're always striving to be better.
Absolutely. Do you feel like you'll probably never retire?
I'm never going to retire.
I say the same to my dad. I say you'll never retire. You'll always be involved in martial arts somehow, no matter what area it is, whether it's teaching or. Yeah.
The second we stand still is the second that we start to wilt and it all, so there's no such thing. I'd like to kind of ease off. I'd like to be in a situation where I could work when I want, help people when I want, do this when I want to do it, and I think that we're still in a situation where we're still striving to build our businesses.
Yeah.
So that's one thing for the future. I'd like to be in that situation, but I'll never retire.
Fantastic. On that note, Neil Adams, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
And it's been a pleasure speaking to you as well.
Thank you. For those that are watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to follow as well. Thank you so much, Neil.
My pleasure, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to hit the follow button. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications button so you don't miss out on my latest episode. And for more martial arts content, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Just follow @martialartswithjake.